So it's 7 o'clock, we'll call the meeting to order. This is the regular meeting of council of the Municipality of Swan Valley West, held in council chambers at 216 Main Street, Swan River, Manitoba, this 11th day of March 2025 at 7 p.m. Present this evening, Reeve, Gade, Councillors Burick, Zbirun, Neely, Kushniryk, and McGregor. CAO Kristi Ronnquist is with us, and our videographer Jeremy Bergen is here. We also have one person joining us in the gallery electronically. We'll jump into the meeting at number 1.2, Notice of Absence. Be it resolved, the absence submitted by Councilmember Blosha regarding the regular council meeting held this 11th day of March 2025 shall be accepted as received. Moved by Councillor Neely, seconded by Councillor McGregor. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. Those in favor? That's carried. Number 2, adopted the agenda. Be it resolved, the agenda for the regular meeting of council held this 11th day of March 2025 shall be adopted as presented. Is there a mover? I see Councillor Burick, and we'll take Councillor Kushniryk as the seconder. Is there any error or changes or additions, deletions to the agenda tonight that anyone wishes to propose? Hearing nothing, we'll call the question. Those in favor? That too is carried. Next up, number 3, adopting the minutes. Be it resolved, the minutes of the regular council meeting held February 25th, 2025 shall be adopted as presented. Is there someone to move the minutes? Councillor Neely, and the seconder, Councillor Zbirun. Copy of the minutes are attached to the agenda. Has everybody had a chance to review them? They would need more time. Were there any errors or omissions noted in the minutes? All right, we'll call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. Public Works report, I don't believe anything was submitted for tonight. We have no delegations, unfortunately. That was kind of fun last meeting. No petitions, general business is empty, so we'll head to financial items. General Cheques. Be it resolved that the Council of the Municipality of Swan Valley West hereby approves the following payments. General Cheques number 20357, 20389, and pre-authorized debit number 2025-006 to 2025-010 in the amount of $76,737.84, and General Cheques 20390 to 20393 in the amount of $28,839.87 for a grand total of $105,577.71. Is there someone to move the resolution? Councillor Kushniryk, and someone to second. Councillor Neely. Copy of the checklist is attached. I have the checks and the invoices here with us tonight. Who wants to start us off with some questions?
Phone Carrie, she loves
It feels so wrong that she's not here for that. Councillor Burick.
2357, it says Airmaster Sales. That's various road signs. That's all our road signs, like all our.
So what was the number again?
2357.
Good.
It's 6700.
That's not the addressing signs.
No.
That's just.
That's signs that we had ordered, like road closed
Yeah.
and
whatever else.
checkerboard and
Okay.
just various.
So it's all
4
signs.
checkerboard, 75, 4 checkerboard with arrow, 12 stop, 12 road closed,
Okay.
4 watch for children, 10 bridge out, Ford crossing, some square posts as well.
Okay. Posts included, like metal too, or just? You said-
Those particular posts, we bought 40 posts, 2¼ by 3 foot. 2¼ by 2¼ by 3 foot, $24.75 each. 40 posts, 2 by 2 by 8 foot for $38.55 each.
It's the stub and then the post that goes in.
Yeah. They've been doing the stub thing so they don't pound on the post
Yeah,
itself.
Oh, that's good.
I have one question, 20382. Equip. Not a big check, but is that just freight on those things?
Yes,
That is freight.
Should have given me a call, would have picked it up.
I know.
Freight for a barrel truck, or a hand,
Yeah, just a dolly.
built, yeah.
We should probably go Uline next time because they're way cheaper for freight.
It just must have cost more than the
Yes.
rolling ladder. The freight was more than the ladder, or
Just about.
very close to it.
I think, I don't know if I put words in CEO's mouth, but I think when we did the pricing of the things, they were cheaper on the things, so we bought, and then it turned out their freight was just astronomically high compared to the place that was a little more expensive but had normal freight. Not that they planned it that way.
It just sort of stuck out, it's not a big amount, but I mean, it's just freight for that, for one little item, it's $387, so we can,
Yeah.
okay, that's all I got.
Anybody else?
That's it, for everything's straightforward.
All right, if there's nothing else, we'll call the question on the resolution. Those in favor? That's carried. Payroll checks 8.2, be it resolved the council of the Municipality of Swan Valley West hereby approves the following payments. Payroll payments number 716 to 727, the amount of $17,835.72. Is there a mover? Councillor Zbirun, and someone a second.
Go ahead, Arthur.
Councillor McGregor. A copy of the payroll summary is attached in the private view for council. Any questions or discussion? You'll note there's a handwritten one on the bottom. You can kind of see what the note is for that. It's, yeah, we'll get that over with yet. Hearing nothing else, we'll call the question. Those in favor? That's carried. 8.3, indemnities. Be it resolved, the council of the Municipality of Swan Valley West hereby approves the following payments. Indemnities for February, number 4666 to 4674, the amount of $11,075.91. Someone to move the resolution. Councillor Burick, and someone to second.
Byron.
Councillor Zbirun. Any discussion on the indemnities? Hearing none, we'll call the question. Those in favor? That's carried. So we get to number 9, discussion items. Let's leave 9.1 for a minute if we can. We'll come back to it because I can see that being an hour-long discussion. We'll go through the rest and then circle back. Let's start with 9.2. This is Animal Control Officer Kenville. I believe Councillor McGregor had some discussion points you wanted here.
Well, I had come in and asked Kristi for some of these reports because I want to go over them. There's a couple things in there that I noticed that I would like to bring up. One was, one in particular that I happened to call in. I don't know if we should take it in camera or if we should talk about it knowing it's going to...
So if it involves the name of the staff member or the name of the person who owns the dog,
It
it's going in camera.
will involve some people, yep.
Okay, then it's going in camera.
It's interesting. You know, everybody's had a chance to think about last meeting, I'm sure. I actually had residents of Kenville come to visit me at the shop, and they had pointed out to me, another resident in Kenville, that likes to go cruising by on the quads, almost provoking. So the very next day after that dog was struck in Kenville, Joyce and I drove through town. There's dogs loose all over Main Street.
It was what?
Dogs loose all over Main Street. So I think we got a lot of work to do there. I don't know if our camera is an option.
We used to have urban and rural animal control. And we don't anymore. We just have urban that now also does the rural.
Okay.
I wonder, it probably gets quickly into a camera discussion there too on
Well,
personnel,
I
but
think it would be what I've got to show you. I think it's probably a good
Yeah.
discussion on camera.
I wonder if we wouldn't be better off having rural again, having 2 people. So we had the option of somebody else go to deal with some of those issues.
Or maybe some backup too, if you need 2 of them.
Well, you think it was a pretty big area of our officers in the south end, we got a long ways to go to get to the north end,
That's right too, yeah.
you know.
Can't forget Ward 6.
Well, there's no dogs in Ward 6.
Oh, no, yeah, they're all looked at.
Yeah.
They're all
Good-
looked
good
at.
one.
They're all good.
They're all chihuahuas. They just bite your heels.
Should we
But I just, because what I'm hearing from some of the other residents, I think maybe cameras would be a good idea, because I think there's kind of polarized there a little bit on both sides. I think it might be a good idea just for our own good and our own peace of mind.
Shall we send the rest of this in camera then, and we'll have a much more wholesome discussion there?
Yep.
Okay, we'll do that, because I think anything further, we're gonna quickly get into stuff.
Yeah, we're gonna start that.
It's already in camera anyways, right?
Yeah. Okay, let's go to 9.3, Q1 safety meeting minutes. So you'll recall that we are doing a safety meeting between the safety rep and the CIO now, so this is minutes from that meeting. So mostly it's attached to review the things that are ongoing, some little leaks they're working on, some safe work procedures. Number 2 there actually should be struck, because he never did do that and it's not required. The office is gonna do that, so we don't have to actually spend money on it, because we get them for free from Manitoba Heavy Duty anyway. And number 2 and number 1 seem to be the same. So that's pretty good, there's only one thing on the list right now. But there's just some other stuff of what's going on here. If anyone wants some discussion, we can, otherwise it's just for your information.
Most of this we heard about already. I just have a question.
Sure.
I feel like the village idiot, but when we first got on council, I was on the Workplace Safety and Health Committee. I think maybe Carrie was on there too, or something. 2 of us, I think. But we had a few meetings for a year or so, and then nothing, so is this sort of taken over that? Or?
So we don't have enough employees to require an actual committee.
Oh, okay.
So the committee wasn't doing so well getting together. So rather than being in trouble for missing those meetings, we've moved to the requirement, which is just a safety person, discuss it with a manager
Okay,
every 3 months.
okay.
So it's a little more informal. They get together just in Kristi's office, go through the
Yeah,
list.
because we did get a few things done. We had a bunch, that time I went with a girl that worked there and the safety officer, and it was the stormiest day of the winter. And we went to both places and checked everything out, and so then we had a bunch of things we were supposed to do. I think we got most of it done, but yeah, okay, that's, I was just
Chelsea.
wondering, because I'm just sort of thinking maybe.
Chelsea usually does a shop inspection before we meet. And so then she brings any issues that she sees there.
Okay,
So we have been working for when the eye wash stations need cleaning or changing of the fluid, or actually new eye socket.
because I know my
pads there and
name is on
things, so-
some, on a sheet there in both the buildings, so that's likely gone now, right?
Oh.
So if they're trying to, you know,
If it isn't already, it will
Yeah.
be soon.
yeah, okay.
Anything else in the safety meeting minutes? Let's go to 9.4 RCMP report, again, mostly for information. If anybody has questions, we can certainly entertain discussion on it, but for the most part, just so you have a copy of it. Let's go to 9.5, animal control report for February. Be it resolved, the animal control report for February 2025 be received and approved for payment. Is there someone to move the resolution? Councillor Neely, and someone to second the resolution. Councillor Zbirun. Copy of the report is attached. The report indicates there were no calls for service in the entire month of February.
Okay,
Any discussion? Call the question. Those in favor? That's carried. 9.6, pretty easy going here as well. Westman Cable is going to be doing some work. So I see this is kind of sideways, but there's maps attached there. They're doing some fixing of some cable, I believe it's fixing. In any case, it's just for information, so that we know what's going on. There's a map available, so it's attached for you in case you see them out digging and wondering what they're up to. What I see is on PR 275, fairly close to town. Anything else on that? 9.7, civic addressing quote. So you remember that we've been working on this for a couple of years. It's become one of those thorns that we never quite get done. So let's do some updating first. We have now mapped 2/3 of the municipality have their addresses assigned for emergency addresses. The other third will be done in the next week or two. So by the end of March, everybody's address will be set in stone what it is. So we're looking at doing some sign ordering. We've been asking Airmaster, you know, if you order 1 sign or 2 signs or 50 signs or 100 signs, where does it get cheap? So the answer is basically at 100. So we never want to order less than 100 of them. We need about 1,000 to 1,100, depending on where that final number of addresses comes out. So the thought was we have 2/3 done. We started in Ward 6 for whatever reason and have come down from Ward 6.
Ward 6, you get the numbers first then.
So we were proposing to order the first 500 signs or thereabouts. So they're here and ready to go when it thaws out. And as soon as we have time, they can start being installed. And then as we sort out the last of it, we'll order a second batch of signs that are more for the south and for any stragglers that we had left in
We
the north.
budgeted for that last year, didn't
We
we?
did. And we didn't use the money,
I
so
know.
it's just gonna come forward into this year. Quotes are attached to these signs. When we originally discussed this, we talked about the blue signs with the 2 lines on them. There's the first pictures, there's pictures of them, and then we get to the actual code at the bottom. So there's a little difference in whether it's the 35 by 30 or 45 by 25. So we'll sort that out. I think that depends more on the numbers, does it? Or is it,
Are we just gonna have numbers on ours?
we'll have number on the top row, road number on the second row.
Oh, I see, okay.
The thought was that if we own, like, you only have to do the number, but then if you're driving an ambulance, you don't know which road you're on.
Yeah,
Or
if
if
you
you
hit,
put that road as a second line,
You hit the
and we
wrong
have that
corner.
correction line in there, and it gets
Yeah.
confusing when you're on one side
or
or
the
the other.
sign gets knocked down on the corner.
Yeah,
then
this will still at least tell you what
Yeah.
road you're on.
Yeah,
They're the same, the characters
Okay.
on the sizes, just different shape, I guess.
Oh yeah, one's square and one's sort of longer.
You can get
Okay.
any color, blue or green.
Blue.
Yeah.
I like blue. So the signs are basically 26, 25 each. And then the posts for them are $19 a post, the hardware is $1.75. So for the first 500 signs is going to be just under 25,000. There's an optional thing there for fridge magnets that we were thinking we should do. So it's got your address on it and you get the fridge magnet as we put the sign up. So you have that to stick on your fridge and get used to the address and start using it. So they're $3 a house, which seemed like a pretty good investment in people knowing how to get an ambulance.
If somebody's calling it in, they don't have it.
that's a good
That's a good
idea.
idea.
Good idea, yeah.
Yeah, it's a good idea.
Thoughts on ordering 500? Are we okay with getting the first batch done? Okay, you just have to wait until I type something out here.
I'm ahead of them for a
You're
change.
cranky,
Hey,
eh?
I'm too often to get ahead of them. You smile over.
That he's early or that he's almost out of chocolate already?
He's just getting going, look out.
Be resolved, the council approves the ordering of the first 500 rural address signs as per the attached quote. That was Councillor Neely, and was it Councillor Burick was number 2 there? Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. Those in favor? That's carried. Okay, let's go back to what you've all been waiting for. 9-1 grader quotes. So attached are the John Deere quotes that we've had for a while. We've talked about them a little bit at a previous meeting. The CAT quotes that we spoke about at the last meeting are attached. So I can advise that I think the answer is 650 was for the 6-wheel drive and 600 for the 4-wheel drive, if I remember right, roughly.
The cat?
Yeah.
Cat machine?
CAT, this is the paper.
Cat machine, 160 cat was 598,
That's one channel.
all-wheel drive.
Okay,
160 is 653.
yeah, okay. I had Lead Hand review that all-wheel drive one just to see if he had any concerns. In the quote, it shows a 14-inch blade. He was wondering why it doesn't have the extension, so I asked him, it does have the extension, they forgot to put it in here. So it is a 16-foot blade, not a 14. He noted the articulation, the auto articulation is only a demo, that you still have to buy the articulation, so he wondered if they would just throw that in for free, because it's just a code you put in the computer. I haven't asked him about that. And then he was asking about the fenders, if they're steel or plastic, he would prefer plastic, because they're lighter and easier to work with. But otherwise, he seemed to like the specs.
The guys would like plastic.
Yeah. I don't know which is on that machine. It says Milco fenders, but I'm not sure which one that was.
Have you talked to the men? They got problems with the cat machine?
I have not. I spoke only to Chad and Kristi.
Well, he was leaning that way when he was here. So.
I know some of them really like the cat, some of them don't really have a
The
preference.
thing is, you know, it's nice to buy a machine that the operator's gonna like, but that operator may not be here in 3 years, so he's still got the machine, so then you got a different operator, you know, like, how do you, it's hard to cater.
So no particular pressure, but both the John Deere salesperson and the cat salesperson in the last 24 hours have been in touch to say tariffs are coming
Yeah.
at 25%. So make up your mind, because you could easily have 25% tariffs in a week or two. So we need to, I'm not buying one tonight, but we need to get real serious about discussing if we're buying a new machine or a used machine. And if we're buying new, there's really 4 options here. Where are we going? If we're buying used, there's a lot more options. We could spend another day or two at that. So what's the thoughts? What do we want to do? Does somebody want to pitch we spend $650 on a grader now to avoid tariffs, or do we look for something used? We've seen the used for as low as 2 something for a 4-wheel drive. Once you get into 6-wheel drive, you're into
That
300-400.
was a 2-wheel, that was a 160,
Yeah.
4-wheel drive.
Yeah,
Yeah.
4-wheel.
And then you get, by the time you get to the 6 wheels, we're up in that 350-400 is what we're seeing.
There was one in Regina at 419.
Yeah.
These are actually less money than what I thought they might be. You know, new machines, I thought they'd be
These, to be clear, the
another
new,
100,000 on top. The cat guy's not listening, is it? No, but.
these are spec'd without anything on them, so no plow, no wing. So some of those used machines have some of that stuff on them.
Right.
Depending on the one. And it's gonna be like a plow and wing for this is gonna be $100 grand if we do new ones. If we move them from the 140, no big deal, right? But if you're, if you're buying a brand new
Yeah.
everything, it's a lot more than this.
Especially the one-way.
Yeah.
A lot of guys got no use for a one-way. They don't want a grader for that purpose, you know, they're.
What did you say the price of one in Yorkton was?
419.
Nope, Yorkton was 230.
Oh, Yorkton, I'm
So
sorry.
Yorkton is a 2019 Cat 160 M3 4-wheel drive, so just rear. 7,100 hours. The comparable 2019 all-wheel drive, 500 hours less, was 419.
Yeah.
So 190K more. You gain 500 hours and the all-wheel drive.
Well, the all-wheel drive apparently isn't worth that much according to this.
Well, I was gonna say, if you're going new, it's a no-brainer. The resale is in the,
55,000.
50,000 or something.
yeah. If you're gonna go new, I would toss the 4-wheel drive and go all-wheel for 50 grand. It doesn't make sense. Yeah. I'm still pro investigating the 230K, it's affordable now. We had discussed a little bit that if we go with the new, we're financing with everything that we wanna do this year. Whereas.
What, do we have any equipment reserve?
Not 650,000. I don't know if I have it here. It'll pull up. I'll look. You keep discussing while I look.
Weren't we talking about a tractor too?
I think we,
Well, so on the
For
tractor
repair?
front, I discussed it, we looked at places to repair it, didn't find any. So I've told them to go ahead with the transmission, but not with the pump. So we have a moving, driving tractor again. So 26,000 for the transmission to get it going. We can either use it this summer or we can sell it and buy something. You're that 250 for a tractor if you want a tractor. I guarantee you we don't have 650 plus 250 in the
I know,
reserve.
that's what I'm at.
I think we're closer around 4 something in the reserve right now. And so like we would normally add to the reserve again this year. But we would do that later in the year when the taxes have been paid. So we have a line of credit, like, worst case scenario, we want a line of credit a bit, but 650 is more than is sitting in reserve right now. But it's not the ultimate reason for the decision. We can make that work if
Yeah.
that's what we want to do.
the tractor's not as important as the grader, it's only used for 5 or 6 months of the year, so. We can get the transmission in it.
And the pump was said to be weak, but they said that we had no trouble with, all the pump does in that was lift the mower up and down. And it said that was still working fine, because some of them, the pump is very important to them still going forward. We had one at home without the hydraulic pump, it doesn't move anymore.
It's still cheaper than 250,000.
No, this fifth machine we have now, is it still sitting or is it getting fixed?
So it's going to be fixed, but it still hasn't yet, there's resistance.
Because it'd be nice to have that machine going in the spring, but the way it's going, it doesn't look like it'd be ready by spring.
The machine is still sitting in Swan River. So I've tried a couple times to have it taken to Durban so it could be repaired, and every time I try, I'm told we should just take it to Yorkton instead. And the machine sits in Swan River.
If you said it goes to Durban, it goes to Durban.
Go to Yorkton for repair.
There's some concern in Public Works that the repair option from Benito might not know how to do it. Benito assures us they do, but then Public Works wants to take it to Yorkton instead,
That's the 2014 John Deere.
the 870.
870, yeah.
So we put 125 in last year to machinery reserve. I don't have, this doesn't show me the total that's in there. Keep looking.
Brad, this one in Yorkton, did you get, like,
I haven't gone any further with it because I wasn't sure where the interest was or
so you didn't
what we
look,
were
no
doing.
pictures or anything, or?
Well, the pictures were online. I think I
No,
sent
like-
a bunch around, didn't I?
I got a picture of it on my phone.
It's like it's shiny yellow.
It is. It has
That's the
joysticks.
big concern. It
Big
does
wheels.
have yellow paint on it.
Black wheels. Nice contrast. See if I can find
You
it
don't
here.
have your soft on here, do you?
No.
So what's your feeling on it, Brad, like the shape of it, then you just saw the picture, so.
Well, I don't run them, but it looked as good as anything I see out there on any other marketplace for them. And like I said, you can have all the maintenance records and
There's
oil
all,
samples.
there's maintenance records to look at.
Yeah. But of course, we would have to go see it, you know,
It's still there?
as far as I know.
Here it is, Brian.
And what does it come with the
I
One-
don't
one-
think it has any
the wing?
plows.
wing?
But no, I don't think so, but our 140 wing will go straight on it. It's got the right hookups
Front
for that.
everybody.
You can't really tell too much from,
No, you'd have to send a couple guys
The
to check
side,
it
it's the side view.
yeah,
Rear
you can't
view,
tell too much from it. Like you say, it's yellow, it's about all.
I had 6 or 8 pictures here. Where did I find it?
Thing head. $7,100. It's a municipal grader.
I have like a hard time saying we should spend, on a machine with 7,000 hours, we shouldn't be spending 400 or 500,000, right? But 200 and some thousand for 7,000 hours,
You put a motor in it and still be way ahead of it.
like I know what I'd do if it was for me, but I'm not here to tell you guys what to do, this is for us to all figure out. I would buy used, but that's just because I'm kinda cheap and, you know, the first 50 hours took $100,000 off the value. The next while wasn't so bad. I can't make the argument by like some of the used ones we've seen that are 450, 500,000 for a used machine. Well, at that point, that's just silly. We should
Unless
buy
it's
a
got
new.
800 hours on it, you know.
Yeah, you know, at that point, it should absolutely be new. The only attraction I have to those ones that are that lower price is just the price of them, because we can afford to still fix something if we have to, as long as it's back to that thing, as long as it was a municipal grader, that every 2 years they swap one out, okay, well, it's not so bad. But if it's one that they said, this grader is crap, let's get rid of it, we're buying a big problem.
Okay, so if we bought one now, would we get rid of one? Is that the plan, or we're
Not
keeping it?
today.
No, but are we keeping them all? Or you said we're gonna fix one, put it on sale, you
I
said?
tell you, even in my head at that price, we could take the 140, put our mulcher on it and have that
Yeah.
thing doing your secondary maintenance and everything. And the 870's rebuilt and still a solid spare. And with 6 machines, we shouldn't be putting the same hours on everyone either. We should keep our hours on. So your phones are all gonna go off because I sent those pictures to all of you.
I don't know, I kinda, my feeling, I kinda like Brad's used one.
So my concern is, if we decide to go down that used route for a while, we go see this thing and we look at it and look at a few others, there's a good possibility that thanks to Mr. Trump, if we then backtrack out of that, there's going to be tariffs on new machines by the time we get back to new.
But they're a lot of money right now, so just 25% more, so I
But
mean,
that's some more.
it's, like you say, it's,
Which, okay, so worst case, we decide we're gonna look at used for a while, and we hate them all, and we can't find one that we think is okay, and we say, oh, it's gotta be new, and there's 25% tariffs on it, I would think at that point we stop, and we wait. Because how long can those tariffs really last? Do we believe they're gonna be 3 years of tariffs? Or is it gonna be for a couple months, and they're gonna come back off?
Might
I
not
wouldn't
even-
roll the
might not
dice
even
on that.
happen.
Might not, might never show up. But I think if we get to the point where it is 25% more, I couldn't make an argument pay that, because I don't believe it's gonna be 25% more for very long. Might be a couple months, but how long would that really go on before they settle that? But there is that risk that it goes on for a year, and we sit here for years saying, well, wish we bought one, but it's too late now.
but even like you say, yours would be roughly 250,
Well, it's 230. I would
So
assume we could get a
250.
little cheaper.
and the new one's around 700 now?
It's 650.
653 plus.
And your used should go up in respect to the tariffs going up, right? Used will go up as well.
Yeah, oh,
Uh,
so there's roughly
Well,
400.
that one's a 4-wheel drive.
It's just the rear,
Yeah.
just the 4, yep.
Well, we got the 772, right?
Yeah,
That's 4,
we've-
and
and the 140's 6-wheel as well.
that's the only ones I got.
We got 2 6-wheel. But, like I said, did we have even one grader really stuck this year that caused us a problem? I don't think any got stuck. We could move them around and push corners and whatnot. The 140's better for ridging.
Well, it is, and the 146 wheel, it's good for ridging, it is really good at ridging because it's not trying to go full speed. It's just working around in a field doing its thing. It could do ridging another couple winters. And only do ridging, like just be used, put the V-plow on it, do ridging right away with the V-plow.
So the 140 works up in basically in Byron's area, eh? Dwayne?
Right now it is, yep.
For a while, it was the spare, and that 870 was there, and then it got swapped over.
So are
to
they
870.
having any troubles up there being 4-wheel drive as opposed to 6-wheel drive, or they?
Well, I think where he went out in the field there and made them ruts that we had to fix up a little bit, he got stuck, is what happened, but since we got the heck out of it.
With the 870?
No, I think it was the one.
That was
That's
the
the
140,
140.
got stuck. He's had the 140 since September of this
Yeah,
year.
okay, so Chris runs an 870,
Chris is the 870 in the hills.
but I'm just wondering about the hills, and well, he does the hills out to the west there too, eh?
Yeah.
So, any issues? Like, I know years ago.
There's times they would like a 6-wheel in there. But I mean, we've made do.
Yeah.
We had the 140 in those hills one winter, like 2 years ago, it was there for a little while. That was not good.
No.
It was a 6-wheel, so those hills just weren't
Just-
right.
2 years ago, we had
Just-
Barkman take his dozer out and push back, but we didn't have to this year, so I mean,
Well, that one
It's-
year, it was like that all over the place, remember?
yeah.
When track hoes and bulldozers, I mean, there's stuff everywhere, but. Well, I'm just thinking like okay, who's gonna get the next grader we buy? Where is it gonna go, I guess?
Ward 6.
We already got a 160 up there, do you want 2 of them? Huh?
I think if we had a new all-wheel drive, well, it should absolutely go into that 3
Yeah, the zone 2 kind of.
I thought
with the Thunder Hill hills.
excuse me, I thought that was a plan to have 2 in Ward 6.
So that's Chris.
The old ones. That would be Chris right now.
Well, he's got a 2020.
He's got the newest one out there right now.
He's got the newest grader.
Which would mean that machine would bump down to the Alpine area, I would think. That's if you went with a new all-wheel drive, because it makes sense to put your all-wheel drive in the hilliest area.
If you
Well,
go with
yeah.
a four-wheel drive, you wouldn't necessarily.
You wouldn't have to,
swap
then it could go straight to probably Alpine and take out the 140. Because just on, I think everybody's happy with their grader otherwise.
Well, they'll all want the new one. We know that. If there's a new machine, they're all gonna want it, but
Well, that 2019's a year older than Chris's, he won't want it.
no, if we buy a used one, there's gonna be, no one's gonna beg for the used one. Except Dwayne's gonna want the 140 gone, cause
Yeah.
it's underpowered.
What do you think, Byron? You mentioned before about graders and,
I think everybody knows what I think, so.
He likes the new on warranty,
well,
all-wheel drive, and I don't disagree, there's definite perks to it. The other angle to think of that I haven't crunched and we have budget coming up is no matter what, with the prices of these things, we put 125, you said, into machinery reserve, we need to at least double that if we're gonna go into a new grader rotation.
oh.
So buying the
in
used gives us a
future, yeah,
1 year.
yeah. My
Raise the
only
flags.
concern, and I think I mentioned it last meeting, was our machines, the years on them is starting to get fairly old, you know, you're looking at 14, 17, 18, and 20 is our newest one. I don't know what year the 140 is, but anybody know what year that machine is?
I think it's actually the newest, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's newer than Chris's. I think it came after Chris did.
Which one did
It'll
we
tell you
buy
the
when we
GPS.
first got on council here? Which one did we buy that winter?
That was
The 772 of Ralph's.
Okay.
And that's a 19? 18?
Ralph's is
19?
18.
18?
That doesn't matter, but that would be my only concern. But we don't have, we'll go half the money in there to buy a grader.
Spending another, what, 400,000?
The
300.
140 says it's 2019 is what it's reported on GPS.
Maybe they got those 1 year old too.
Well, probably was.
The 140 is the
The 140 says
2019.
it's 2019.
Okay. So we got a 14, a 17, and a 18, a 19, and a 20. I guess, I don't wanna run the show, you know, I'm just
No,
talking, I mean, go ahead and say what you guys think, I don't.
I don't know, I almost think we should get back on the new.
If we
It's gonna
can,
hurt, but
if we can afford it.
I know, but it's like some of the ages, those things.
Yeah, but it's more the hours than the ages,
Yeah.
actually, yeah, and equipment is more, I think it's more
I don't think
important.
our hours are bad except for the old 870, but if we rebuild it, it's a good start.
Yeah, and if we put a new engine in that, I mean,
Yeah.
you know,
If we're gonna go to new, we would start trading some off, right? So we wouldn't necessarily pay that full price every time. But what we have is kinda gray, so don't expect huge trade-offs for the first while, right?
Yeah.
So if you're at 650, we get the GST back, but we pay the PST and don't get it back. So 653,
40 grand.
so it's gonna be basically 700. So you would have to change, like right now, we're putting 125 into reserve, which is what we've done for a while. But we need to be putting 350 into reserve every year, just for the graders, for the next 8 years.
What was our tax levy last year?
4 million,
Yeah.
so we'd have to go up there some. But then that still isn't gonna solve our tractor problem that's coming. If we're gonna start doing new tractors too, then we need to, I mean, it's another 125, basically 125 a year, we buy us a tractor every 2 years. And then we need mowers at some point.
We're looking at a 2.25% increase, which is almost 5% just on that.
Yeah.
So it'd be almost a 5% increase just to do the new grader rotation. With no other changes.
We just haven't been putting enough in equipment reserves.
Yeah, with the inflation, the way it's gone, like if you look at what the used 5,000-6,000 hour machine is, it's probably what we paid new.
Well,
Like
last time we bought machines, like when we bought that 140 and Chris's 870, these numbers were nowhere like this, right? They were new machines were 350, and we were trading in and getting some back. We were putting 200 and some $1,000 in and getting a grader. They've just gone so high so fast.
So for myself, I'm not opposed to your liking of the new. I just think that the one in Yorkton gives us 1 year to plan and really adjust and maybe get into that, really analyze, this is what we think we can get for trades, this is how much we really need to put per year. You'll be on an 8-year turnaround or whatever, but every so often you're gonna wanna keep one and bump it into your spare and get rid of your old, really worn out machine.
Do we need 6 graders though? Like,
Well, if we train guys to run them, I don't see why another couldn't run all the time, right?
I
We
understand
have
one
done
extra.
no road maintenance because they're grading. So if we had that one guy running around mulching and doing the shoulders and stuff, would actually fix our roads up and have more gravel. There's a ton of material sitting in those.
You're saying have a 5th operator on it, that's what you're saying.
Yes, if we have, not necessarily hire another, but if they're, eventually we gotta catch up on some scrubbing or we got a guy machine down, they jump in that and go.
The big pitch for the 5th machine was that because we were buying a used one and we weren't buying new again, have 5, so when any one broke, we still had 4, which has worked out fairly well. Since we got it, there's been a lot of times where we've only
Yeah,
had
we
4.
would have been down to 2
machines.
graders instead of 3.
Yeah, there was a while now that we had 3, we would have had 2, but even last winter, we had some times that we had 4 instead of 5. And when we did have 5, on the really bad days, the 5th one would go for a day, just to go catch up some stuff. But it was never envisioned to run a 5th operator. It was always 4 operators plus, a lead hand or somebody else jumps in on that day it's needed. If we're buying used again, I would keep all 6 until we buy a new one and then throw somebody out. Because what if,
Some of them are getting
We're
so
actually, if you
much.
look at the price difference between that all-wheel drive 160 and the 4-wheel drive 160, you get to keep our 140 if we don't get all-wheel drive. For the difference in price.
Oh, those 2 over there.
Yeah, if we look at the 2
I
used
think,
ones.
I'm thinking new, but
Yeah, no, if we-
50 grand.
If we look at the 2 used, 419 to 230, you
Yeah,
kinda get to keep
yeah.
our 140
Yeah.
just by staying with,
see,
Not
originally
all.
we were told the 8.7, it was $100,000 to fix this engine problem.
yeah.
But Benito's telling us it's $40,000 to fix this engine problem. And then once Benito came up with that quote, then all of a sudden Public Works wasn't so sure about it being 100,000 from someplace else anymore. And then they wanna take it to yet another place where they think it'll be cheap. So if it's really $40,000 to fix that machine, what a steal of a deal to have a machine that has a fixed transmission and a fixed engine. Like surely that machine has another 3,000 or 4,000 hours in it
Oh.
for $30,000 or $40,000. Like that's the cheapest hours we're ever gonna get.
Well, I think, I think you can do a semi-engine for 40.
Well, I believe
And there's no
the
difference between it.
Benito quote is based on a John Deere long block, I believe. I'm sure it was a long block, but it's an actual John Deere block. So it shouldn't be far out.
So the used block,
Mm-mm. Nope.
That's got the big engine in it too, 9 liter.
9 liter, I think it is.
So that's what I'm saying, is I don't wanna see us get rid of that 870. If we put $40,000 on it and have a machine that we have only 40 grand, because this basically is totally paid off at this point, right? We can just junk it and we're not owed anything. But if we can put 40 grand in it and get 3,000 or 4,000 hours out of it, that's $10 an hour.
What else is left, what else is left to go? The transmission's been done.
Transmission's been done.
Diffs, that's about it.
Yeah, and I mean, maybe a
That's
pump
not-
or something, you
Yep,
know, like, I
nothing major.
mean, not a $600,000 pump.
No.
I mean, to have for a spare machine, I agree we should have 5, 6 unquestionable, but if we bought, we could always, if we bought a brand new one, maybe a year from now, we could get rid of 2 of them. You know what I mean, still have 5 graders, 1 brand new one, the other ones with all like 8,000 hours or less, basically.
Is that
Not
870?
9,000 or less.
Like the 140 is too small, except it's good for a couple things. The 870 is the only one that should go at some point. But if we put 40 grand in it, and we get a couple thousand hours of it, it's still gonna be worth $100 and some thousand to sell it off at that point, you know? If, you know, we use it for a while, run some more on it, and then sell it at auction, unless there's some miracle and new graders go back to $300,000, that machine's still gonna get 100 grand. There's people offering us $70,000 for it not running. So like,
For that 870?
that 870, they said they traded in for $70,000 not running.
You know, they know something we don't know that, right?
Well, it's not gonna cost 100,000 to fix it if they're offering us 70.
Yeah, it's got $11,500 on it, so it's getting up there. But it'll have no hours on the motor if we do the
Well, and
motor.
even though it may not be the ideal machine, if you're sitting with 6 machines available to us,
Yeah,
that takes away one of the perks of the warranty of it goes down, there's no downtime, they swap machines. We don't have to worry about that, we
Wow.
still have,
and this machine's plenty big enough to do anything we want to
It
do
does.
with it. Oh,
it's done everything we needed to this point, so.
Do you talk to people in Saskatchewan, cat people in Saskatchewan, dealers at all?
So
Like for trade-ins or,
Yeah, do you talk to them
haven't.
at all?
no?
We go through the AMM for this,
So
is
for-
all some kind of,
for brand new ones, they're pre-tendered through AMM. So CAT has tendered across the entire country for graders. So this is the CAT quote. This grader,
no matter where
every
you buy
municipality.
it, Canada.
You can buy it any deal you want, but this is the price. But on used ones, that's not the case.
Right.
Used is,
Yeah.
everyone is separate and different depending on where it is. And it's the same with the John Deere quotes, that's the John Deere price. I don't know if I mentioned it last time or not, but Cat had a used one they were doing a demo with in Grandview, but it was $550 for a used one.
How old?
It was like a year or two old, it had like, that's 5, 6, 7, 800 hours, but really? I didn't buy a new one then.
You can buy a new one.
You know, it doesn't make sense when
What
it's
more?
that little difference.
I guess it boils down to, can we afford to buy a new one this year? But
So if we're fixing that motor in that one, do we need a greater period?
Maybe we don't.
There's a thought. I mean, why fix it and then turn around and just go with what we have? It worked so far. Save that 200,000 or 300,000 or whatever and,
get some more money in reserves
Yeah.
for next year.
yeah. And like you say, how long are the tariffs gonna last?
They can't go on. Worst case, 3 years.
Yeah,
I guarantee you after 3 years, I can't see them going that long.
no. Maybe we don't need another one.
Not my choice either,
I'm-
we've all gotta figure it out
I'm not the
together.
grader operator, my only bit of feedback on that is the guy running the one says that the antler rack is really hard on your back every day.
The what?
The antler rack controls, always leaning forward running it.
Who is that? One of them.
One,
Which machine?
that would be the 140 or the 870 are both antler rack, everything else is joystick now.
Yeah, but I mean, we were keeping them anyways, we're keeping the 140 anyways, so what's,
Yeah, we were gonna use it just
Yeah.
for other things then, right?
Yep.
We could still do that and put this 870 with the new motor and where that one's working.
We need to not have the 140 plowing snow next year.
Grading is not a problem.
run the other ones and park the 140 for, like you said, for
Just do
emergencies or whatever, ridging or,
That's-
I really wanna see that mulcher on it. That thing is sat
Whatever,
for
I
so
mean-
long, it's gotta get tested.
I'd like to see it too.
let's put money in the way and there's more money in the reserve and fix what we got and go another year and see what happens. See what happens with those tariffs. Maybe we'll be sorry we did, or maybe we'll be glad we did, I don't know. Crystal ball.
And give us a chance to budget too.
Well, yeah.
Well, we can still change our mind later. If we
Yeah,
decide 6
yeah.
months from now we wanna buy
That's
a
right.
machine.
I'll get up on
It's
the
just the same as changing our mind tonight, right?
Yeah.
Like, we could still,
Just a tariff threat.
you
Yeah,
know,
Yeah,
and everything's gonna get more expensive. Like, I think the writing's on the wall that this time next year, a new machine will be under $25,000. It's just how it's gonna be, but we've done like, so history, not everybody's been here very long. You know, we've usually bought graders for cash, but we haven't always. There was a time when Swan Valley West bought 2 brand new graders, financed them, made payments on them for a few years. You know, there's such a thing as buying 4 new graders
yeah.
at one time and
I
financing them over
mean,
several
you could do
years.
that too, in a budget that you're gonna have someone, this payment every year, and every 2 years, you're trading it off, your payment stays the same, but you got a new grader driving, eh?
Where the trouble came with that was as one council goes to the next, council goes to the next, goes to the next. First council had done it and had these payments coming up, and the next council essentially was putting money away in the reserve, but only enough to make the payments. And so then when those graders were done, it was time to buy a new grader, the reserve was at 0. Instead of having put extra away to be ready for the next cash purchase, or financing the next one, but that next council didn't want to finance again. So then there was a gap, which is where we started to fall off warranty. You know, the being off warranty now directly came from buying 2 at the same time in the past, and then not planning for how to continue that on
Exactly.
going forward.
I see on these quotes, you're gonna get an 8-year powertrain warranty, it's like $35,000, $37,000 depending on the units. I mean, you can put a motor in just about for that. You know, in that 8 years, we're gonna say that's 12,000 hours, it used to be, it's maybe about 10,500 now or something. The motor goes. What you paid for warranty, you could put an engine in, you know.
yeah.
Not an engine and a transmission,
No.
but, yeah. Yes. I guess it all works out the same in the end, I guess, but if you got the money to start with, that's the big thing.
Budgeting, getting back to having new machines, I think we just have to get back in the mindset of budgeting, like, so that we can.
Well, if we had $1 million in reserve, equipment reserve, it'd be a different story.
Yeah, right.
I think what you're gonna find out when we go to budgeting, and we run those numbers, we're gonna find out that unless we're interested in 15% tax increase,
Yeah.
Things are gonna stay the same.
Yeah, this last 4 years of inflation is sort of,
because we've gone up some every year, but we haven't gone up what inflation has been. And so really our budget overall is getting smaller. We've done that by not buying a new machine, buying a used one instead. You know, we've cut those things out to get that room in the budget to do the stuff we wanted to, which was more gravel, the GIS.
Yeah.
There hasn't been a lot of extra things added to the budget. Everything just cost more as time went on.
and who would have guessed 3 years ago the things would be doubled today what they were? Like who could budget for that? Like how, you know?
So do we figure out on financing, see how much it's gonna cost us a year for financing?
We can figure it out, it'll be,
About 60, about?
when they financed it before, it was 2 payments or 3 payments, wasn't very long.
Oh, okay.
Otherwise the interest starts to,
Okay. I thought maybe it was over 5 years or something that they.
I wanna say it was 2 years. Terry, do you remember, were you here then? That was when Lauren was Reeve.
But you're talking
Did
about,
we finance through John Deere, or did we go through the credit union?
Maybe credit union. I think it was just a venture loan type thing. I don't think it was.
Now, if you're going into a fixed rotation, I have no idea on equipment, but how does leasing work out? Because you're handing it in, it gives you a fixed thing you can budget on at least. You know what your return is at the end, it's this much. And
Guys do that.
well, that,
more for
I thought
tax
that'd
work.
be the same thing as financing, I thought we'd go straight through the bank and take a loan out for 5 years, and in 2 years, or when that grader has $5,000 on it, you trade it off, your payments will stay the same, you just add to the loan and keep paying. But you gotta drive in a new grader And every 2 years you could have a new grader in your yard.
Yeah, when you do the purchase, the trade-in value can always fluctuate, whereas the lease, it's fixed. That's the biggest thing, it's fixed.
But
They're gonna
the lease is more for guys for,
Tax write-off,
Oh, write-offs.
it helps.
and,
But
well, they
I-
don't tie up their cash then, right? I mean, that's sort of what we're at. But more for tax purposes, I think.
A lot of it's tax purpose.
It's hard to make the argument that you wanna spend 8% interest on those things, right? Cause you get into a lease, you're gonna be 8% interest on what you want that grader as time goes on. So it's kinda hard to, when you're a municipality that can normally just write a check for it, it's hard to swallow what that interest amount has to be, because you start looking at it thinking, well, what are we doing here?
It's one thing if you got one machine, if you got 5 of them,
Well, and we're
You
basing
know,
the
for us,
350 or
I mean-
300 a year based on no increase in cost of the machines either, so.
It's the same thing we got caught with fire trucks in the valley, right? Fire trucks are $300,000, well then they're 5, then they're $1 million. In one cycle of getting a fire truck, they go from nothing to huge amounts. And so you've been, and that's what the argument the fire board I made one night was, let's not put money in reserve for a fire truck, because we're just killing ourselves, because we don't know what it's gonna be. So we save and save and save every year, and inflation keeps taking that down every single year. You know, what we saved 3 years ago for a grader here, that money's only worth half what it was the day we
Buy the
saved it.
tires and that's it.
yeah.
You know, sometimes you're better off just, you know, at the time of, because if everything's gone up, also taxes have gone up as well, use the cheaper money, rather than save money for 20 years and find out that at the end of that, there's no
Should have
fire
used that
truck.
money for something else and then just took the loan out or done something different, right?
Well, maybe we should investigate taking a loan, out, just investigation there.
Yeah.
Plus put a little bit more in reserve. Now, I don't know how much that would raise taxes, but like what our payment would be, I guess, and we'd have to determine that, take it over 6 years or whatever, and
Right?
might give us a little bit of
Nice to see.
a boost in our reserve account, is what I'm thinking, you know. I don't know.
I get what you're saying, but how do we justify, okay, we're gonna keep $600,000 in this bank account that we're not earning interest on, and pay interest on $600,000 here and say we did the right thing?
Oh, I see what you mean,
You know,
yeah,
if
yeah.
we're gonna take a grader for 5 years
Convenience,
and pay it up,
convenience.
okay, but you may as well just take that reserve on day one and bought the
Yeah, I see
grader,
what you
and
mean,
then
yeah.
saved up for the
Yeah.
next grader.
And saved
not
your
pay
interest.
We'll get nothing in reserve, but we're paying on the loan, yeah.
Yeah.
Or fix the one and go with the 5 you got and be done with it.
Well, short term, certainly fixing it.
Well, for
seems
sure,
to
we
be
gotta
the-
fix that,
yeah.
it won't be 70. We got the transmission fixed already. I mean, if that's a grader I'm thinking of, there's some history behind that transmission. You know, you guys like to hear about it too, whatever. You know, so,
So we can check into the debenture thing, let's find out what the interest rate is. Remember that debentures here aren't as simple as loans are for everybody else. Debentures here require provincial approval.
yeah.
So we would have to do all the paperwork for that. It takes some time, not that we can't do it, we can absolutely do it. We'll find out what the prices would be, but don't expect a loan happens in a week here. It's a couple months process by the time you get the bylaw done and get it set off.
There's no
I
use
think
doing.
what, like Terry said, is just find out
Yeah,
what
find out what it would be.
it would be, what it would cost us. And then we'll decide on
What the
if we wanna go further with it or not.
Well, we might be better off to go down the end of Main Street to the credit union.
We're not allowed to do that.
Oh, can't.
We're a municipality, so we have to debenture if we're, like, we have to have a
I
borrowing
thought we
bylaw.
had loans at the credit union here before.
We have a line of credit, but if we want to borrow money against something, we have to follow the hoops. There's a little bit of, the province does
Well, what
not
we're-
want municipalities to
What
borrow
we're
so much
paying,
money they could never pay it
what we'd
back.
have to pay on the debenture, or maybe we could just put it into reserves for a year and carry on.
There's absolutely no question we need to put more money away, because we're not putting enough away.
How much did you say is in there now?
I didn't find the amount,
Oh.
but we put 125 last year.
I bet there's nothing, what's three and 400 something.
I think it's 4-ish, I
Mhm.
think. Because when we bought that used grader, we had looked at using those funds, but then we had enough left at the end of the budget year to pay for it without pulling out of reserves. So we didn't empty the reserve at that point, we left whatever was there, and it's been growing since. Because it didn't make sense when we had $300,000 or something surplus at the end of the year, or buying a grader in December. Well, why pull out a reserve and have that go into general? Let's just spend the cash we have and leave the reserve alone, so we have that money next time we need it.
Well, if we only had 4 graders, I would say we should update somewhat, but with 5 of them, one is a backup unit.
We're gonna put the mulch on that one.
Yeah, but even if we don't have the mulch on, we still have it if we need it, you right? I mean,
And putting mulch on is a couple hour process. It's plumbed for it, you hook it up, you use it for a few weeks, you take it off. It's not like it's, once we put the mulch on, oh, we
like I'm
can use it
thinking,
again.
the main time is the winter when the snow's in, right? As far as it being a rough road, if it's rough for an extra week, that's just the way it has to be, I'm sorry. Unless we get another grader up there to do it. But when there's a snowstorm on, we should have 4, possibly 5 graders going to get things cleaned up. 4 for sure, and hopefully 5. And we got 5 graders, so if we can keep them all.
So I don't want to give bright hope, but faint hope. We're still not completely done 2024 accounting. We're not done the audit from further back. But I think we had surplus last year. And not like $10, because we didn't pay out that GIS money because it never went going. Fuel was cheaper because the tax was off. I think we're going to find out that last year, we came up with a few $100,000 that will go into general reserve. But we won't know that for a while, but that might be part of the solution to being low on equipment reserve. If we had that surplus
Put that in
in
there.
last
Put
year.
that in equipment
Well, you don't
reserve.
even have to put it in there, we just leave it in general. By default, it goes to general, but the fact that the money is there someplace,
Yeah.
right, it ups the general reserve.
If it's in general, you can use it for anything, right?
You know, so we may have contributed more last year than we think, once those numbers are in from what we didn't spend on the other things. You know, some of that's those signs we never spent, we're gonna spend that this year, but there's some other stuff there.
But the sign budget's in that
Yeah.
number.
But I think there's gonna be, when I look at 3-ish, but don't quote me on that. But if we did come up with an extra 300,000, there we have some solutions for later in the year for equipment.
Yeah.
But, you know, faint hope.
Watch the tariff thing, that's.
Well, I know, right?
But that could be, that's a pressure sales thing too.
I think we'll eventually go away.
If it goes that way, used equipment's gonna rise equally.
Well, if it goes that way, we fix the 870, we limp along with the 5 we have until the tariffs come off.
But all that stuff, I don't understand
See,
tariffs.
Trump-
Tariffs really good, but
He could be here for 4 years, but then he could get reelected for another 4, so that'd be 8 years.
He could be here for the next 20 years till he dies, but I don't think he will be. Depends if there's
No,
any
you said-
constitution left in
Yeah,
there or not.
no, you said 4 years of it, or 3 years, if you want, it could be 8 years.
Okay, so are we settled on that? What I believe we have decided is we're not buying any grader tonight.
Right.
We're going to research what borrowing money, how we do that, how much it would cost, so we have those ideas for later. Then we're probably going to just wait and fix the 870, see where we go with that. And then if somebody wants to bring this back, we'll bring it back in a few months, and otherwise we'll just keep going with that until later on. Is that what I got?
So we're not looking at
Yeah.
used then, eh?
that 870, we gotta fix it.
Yeah, I was-
One way or the other. If we fix it, it's worth more. So, I mean, it's just an investment.
Like, can we
right?
decide tonight when we're gonna get it fixed?
It's already supposed to be fixed.
I know, that's the only thing, we could be sitting here in May and June, say it's not fixed yet, like, I mean, make a decision tonight that council said we're fixing it. So send it where you figure is the best.
We did that already.
Been there, done that. Still working on getting that implemented.
No, but I mean, make a decision tonight that we want it fixed,
We made that decision a month ago.
okay?
It just hasn't yet happened,
Okay,
but it will.
but, yeah,
There's
so the
not much
used,
to discuss in camera.
so the used were out, that you're not gonna look into this, the used, we're talking about you now, eh?
I think
No, we're talking about maybe not buying them.
No, but he's talking about next, looking at this,
Well, it depends how much we have and what's available, whether the tariff's on and a whole bunch of things.
We just wait and see, essentially.
okay, no, that's fine, that's good with me.
And that's not to say that we don't show up at the end of November and say, okay, things are
We need
looking
a new one.
okay, we're not over budgeted on anything, let's do something before the end of the year.
It
Yeah,
is
that's
a shame to
possibility.
let Brad's machine go out of Yorkton if it's in as good a shape as what
Oh,
it
Well,
says.
that's what I'm asking.
I wasn't gonna say nothing, but I think we should still send somebody to look at it. You know, maybe it's a dud and it's not worth even looking at. But maybe they would look at it and say,
it's only one day drive there, drive back to go see.
we could
this
put
thing.
1,000 hours on that and probably get our money back. You know,
That's what I'm asking you, is, are used out of the line, out like dumped, or you look, maybe send, you guys go?
What do we know about graders? We should send somebody.
we already told you it's yellow.
It's the same year as our second newest grader, Brad.
No, but I mean, when you look at it, like Brad says, it could be,
I think it's Paul's machine all over again, isn't it?
Where's Paul here?
Paul's the 160.
160, and it's a 20, I'm not sure if Paul's a 17 or 18, doesn't matter, but it's got 8,360 hours on it. That one's got 7,100 hours.
Yeah.
Got an extra year. But it is a year newer, so.
Yeah,
So
it's
we
right in
send
mine.
someone that knows about graders to go see it, do you wanna do that? It would only
I
cost
don't
us
know about
mileage.
graders.
It's only if there's real consideration to buy it. If there's no real urge for it, there's no point in going to look.
Well, if we go and find out it's an amazing machine, if we go and find out it's crap, then we're not kicking ourselves later for
right,
missing it.
exactly.
Like just that investment of one day in the mileage might find out that we really don't want it, and then we're not like, oh, if only we'd done that.
Yeah.
And if it's amazing, then maybe we talk about it. I don't know.
Well, maybe Terry and Byron go look.
I know a guy,
Byron's anti it, so if you looked and you
I
liked it,
know
would
a
know it
guy-
must be good.
I know a guy, a good friend of mine, knows lots about equipment. I can talk to him, he's sort of semi-retired now, so.
See if you could go look. Take a ride.
We're
road
making,
trip.
we're making a road trip Thursday to Nepowa, so I'll pick his brain and see if he's interested.
Yeah, see, if we can set something like that up, let's go look.
Just go to look at it, you know.
Yeah, it doesn't cost us much to look at it. You know, if we find out it's crap,
Yeah,
then we're not sitting here 6 months from now saying, well, we really should have
Yeah,
done
yeah,
that.
yeah.
And we find out, oh, no, it really, you know,
well, he doesn't,
Dodge that bullet, I tell you.
he won't sugarcoat it.
Well, that's what you want. Piece of crap's a piece of crap.
When did you spot this thing, a couple weeks ago or something, or what?
Yeah.
That's a month ago or something.
Yeah, time goes fast, so I don't know.
A while ago.
anything else on graders? All right.
Oh,
Yes,
okay, we talked about the tractors too. About this, can I just add one piece of equipment? The mulcher that we were talking about. Brad, remember the mulcher? Is that still a consideration or no? We're gonna keep what we have?
The brush.
Brush cutter on for the skid steer. Like we talked about it, but then we didn't buy it because of,
I think it would just be another budget conversation. Cause last year we traded it all for a snow bucket, but we didn't get a snow bucket.
no. We, just my view, we've become a whole lot better at using the big scrubber. You know, after we bought that trailer for it, it's moving around. That home sometimes moves 4 and 5 times a week now. It's doing pretty good with scrubbing now where it didn't before. You know, lots of times it would sit for weeks because we didn't want to pay to move it from here to there for something, and we've got a lot more use out of it.
no, I know that, but it's just that the small one, we were saying that didn't perform like it should.
There's
This other
been
machine.
some,
More with the snow blower, the skid steer
The
you're
skid
talking
steer with
about?
the new mulcher that we were looking at,
so the
Oh.
mulcher we have, there's been some great discussion about if it's being used properly. Because we've just about wore the tracks off the machine from how we were using the mulcher.
all right.
Because it maybe wasn't being quite the way it was intended for use, because it shouldn't have worn the tracks off the machine, but they're almost done from a little bit of mulching, but probably not. And even the snow blowing, there hasn't been an appetite in Public Works to make the snow blowing work. So we still don't really know for sure if the snow blower works well or not, because we simply won't ever try it. You know, we had some opportunities this year where we had some banks that were getting big and it was supposed to be able to go mow those banks back. We never did it.
Well, even when we sent the hoe out to clear the road, we probably could have tried it.
Yes, but we wouldn't. And even when we sent the hoe to clear roads, 3 or 4 weeks we spent not putting the blade on the hoe, saying there was a pin missing. And then we're gonna get the pin, gonna get the pin, gonna get the pin, gonna get the pin, gonna get the pin. But it took almost a month to get the blade on the hoe to go open roads, because the pin wasn't with the blade. And so I don't know, like, it could be that snow blower is absolute crap. Or it could work pretty well at some things. Like when the first year we had that snow blower and they were using it to clear some stuff around Durban, they loved it. It was the best thing ever. They were using it to clear the yard and everything. Now it was a new shiny toy, so of course they were using it. Should they use the grader for it? Probably. But there was no issues with it then. It went to Benito the first year and was clearing back lanes and stuff, but I don't think it was great fast, you know, like back lanes, just take the tractor. Front roads, take the grader, you're just done. But for some stuff, if there's a bank in the way, there's opportunities for it, but we haven't done any of that in the last year. So I don't know. There's a lot of snow this year. Now we've spent $0 on emergency snow clearing.
I thought it would be excellent
And
for
as
clearing
long
out
as-
cemetery access and stuff. We could have
Yeah.
cleared in there, beautiful for people.
As long as there's not like 2-4 feet of snow show up in the next 2 weeks, we won't spend on snow clearing this year.
No.
And we're also not spending on ditch digging this year. Like, we're doing really well on that. So I don't wanna paint this picture of, oh, this is a disaster, we didn't get the stuff done. We've managed to not, and we had a lot of snow, and there were some banks I couldn't see over. There were whole miles I could drive that I couldn't see over the banks. But we, you know, got to the ridging finally and saved those roads for the most part. We had one road, took us 2 days to fix, because we didn't get to the ridging in time. But there's other years, we've spent $50,000 on contractors opening roads.
Yeah.
And we haven't spent that this year. So we've done okay. But I don't know if we can actually say, oh, that snow blower doesn't work. I don't know how much we've tried it.
And the banks are shrinking, so it's
Yeah, they're all going
sinking
down.
into the ground, so we can just hope and pray that it doesn't all go in 3 days.
Well, 2 meetings from now, we're going to be sitting here talking about the absolute flood disaster we have. If not next meeting. But for sure, 2 meetings from now, we're gonna be here not thinking about snow at all and be thinking about how many washouts we have. Cause everything went all at the same time. You know, right now, we're pushing really hard on Public Works to get the culvert machines ready. Like, get them ready, like now, not think about it for 2 weeks from now, today, get those machines ready. So we have they're on the trailers, ready to go, we can go start thawing culverts, cause a week from now, we may need to be thawing culverts. And we don't have time then to spend 2 days getting the machines ready. This year we have 2 thawing machines instead of 1 we had last year, so like we've got double the ability to go fix problems and save roads. Let's be ready, cause you can see what's gonna happen, it's gonna get warm one day.
And we're gonna do a map for snow removal. I don't believe it's been started, has it?
I think when it comes to the brusher again, though, the thing, I haven't watched it do a whole lot the big hoe, but what I have seen, it leaves, you can't put a mower through there after. There's chunks of trees everywhere. Whereas if you had an overgrown ditch that we should be mowing, when that other brusher goes through, you could mow it. Because it's just sawdust in the ditch after that. So, in terms of that, you send the big one, you still have stumps and everything or a pile to go clean up. If you send that one that you're talking about, you just send the mower from then on and you should never be scrubbing there again.
There'd be some argument, we're sending that big brusher after trees that are like this. We're insane. How can you possibly send a brusher for a tree like that? Like, what are we thinking? that we're mowing down 6 and 8 inch trees with a brusher and thinking it's not gonna leave a heck of a mess. Everywhere we go, it's a disaster. Nobody likes their ditch after, it's full of crap and the roads covered. We're having to take graders out and grade roads after we scrub them, because those trees are so big.
Yeah.
Like some of those things, there's other solutions with a chainsaw.
You gotta get somebody with a feller buncher.
Well, there were up north, there were some people called in saying, there's some really nice trees in those ditches you're gonna scrub. Can I just hook them for firewood? Absolutely. Cut them flush. And they went, they cut them for firewood and they're gone. Well, let's go find some more people who want firewood and get them to take the big trees out, so we're not starting with this disaster. And then mow what's left, the little stuff. I like that mulcher, it's that drum one, that looks nice. And you see some of the other stuff they've been doing, you see what Hydro has them do? Some of that's pretty nice what they have left over there. But they go take the big trees out first. They don't show up and try to take an 8 inch tree out with it either.
I don't think they leave it that long.
No. Oh, and they spray.
Some of the roads that he did last summer there with that small scrubber, they're excellent, wonderful job.
In the
With
right
the skid
spots.
steer?
Yeah,
Right.
right spots, like you say, with the skid steer, yeah, and the right spots are just, like Brad says, you can cut grass from now and then. No, I was just wondering, because we were talking about that different mulch, Ray, and.
Yeah, that's
Well, the one you showed us on the video, it come out, it was sawdust.
That's the thing, that's what I'm saying, like, I've seen where we've left tree trunks hanging on guys' fences. Well, this thing would just leave, it looks like garden mulch.
Yeah.
You know, you just send the mower in from then on.
But that thing was quite a bit more money than.
I think
the
it was
one that we
30 to
bought.
40 grand to buy that thing.
We were gonna keep our old one, right? Just for light grass stuff or something?
If we did it, yeah.
Because they
we
wouldn't give
talked
us
about
too much on
keeping
a trade-in or something.
Because that light, it would mold, like it's, the one we have now would go through tall grass quite nicely, because it's basically big mower blades under there.
So we'll leave that for a budget item then, we're talking about budget, okay. But I was saying, getting back to the skid steer, so it needs a new set of tracks for this year, or you can do one more
I
year?
think it'll do one more year,
more
but
year?
it's really, what's been happening is it's been going, but they're not cutting to the ground to avoid rocks and stuff, which I get, but they've been backing up over the stumps, and so they've been hitting the stumps,
Yeah,
on the back, instead of always going forward, they've been backing up and hitting that and taking chunks
Oh,
of
the
grass.
skid steer.
Yeah,
skid steer, yeah.
because if you're not mowing right to the ground, but you've pushed everything forward,
You hurt
you need
more,
to keep going.
like they reckon more than just a rubber.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anything else for 911? See, I was still there. It was a good discussion, though. It's kind of nice to have a good discussion.
just because I don't remember, I don't know if you ever sent,
Yeah, I've seen
but
that.
that's the trees that we leave laying on stuff.
Okay,
That's insane.
we have no correspondence or unfinished business, so we're going to committee reports. Now we will start with Councillor Burick.
I had no committee reports, I just was present, Reeve and I, myself and Kristi, had those interviews for lead hand and assistant administrator, and that was all we had, all I had.
Councillor Zbirun.
Yesterday went to Watershed, we had an intern budget and that got passed and they were saying that the Watershed had put back into the community just about $2 million.
Not bad.
Not bad. So,
And most of that goes into labor and contractors,
yeah,
doesn't it?
yeah. So it was good. It was, and that is it, I think.
Councillor
I've got nothing in the last couple of weeks.
Councillor McGregor.
Nothing to report?
Councillor Kushniryk. Wow. Alright, let me get my
Oh,
list.
there we go.
It's not that bad. It's a long list, but not that bad.
Fast popcorn.
I'm actually starting to get complaints about you all teasing me.
I noticed on the safety thing, they were talking about more earplugs. Maybe replace some of the nuts.
Okay, so starting from today and going backwards, as you may know, some staff were away, so I've been doing water plant for almost 2 weeks, every day. Yesterday, I had some spare time, so the test unit that's out there is a DR900 tester. They're supposed to be calibrated each year. So in our report from the water inspector, they noted there was no evidence of calibration of our test equipment for 4 years. So to calibrate it, there's options. We can mail it away, that's gone for a week or two, and comes back, which is really tough to do the tests every day. Or we can drive it to Winnipeg on a certain day, get it calibrated and bring it back, but it's still tough to do that and get your tests done. So the path of least resistance is we bought a new one that is calibrated. So we now have 2. So this one's calibrated for the next 12 months. When it's getting to like 11 months old, it's time to send the first one off for calibration. So it comes back calibrated and we'll use it for a year and then swap back and forth. And if every time somebody's going to Winnipeg on the right day, we'll just run one in there and do it. But what I did yesterday was I used both meters for every test to find out how bad our old one was. And the answer is between 0.01 and 0.02 was the only differences in the readings. So even though it hasn't been calibrated in 4 years, the readings are almost perfect anyway. So it hasn't been making a difference, but to be legal, we now have a calibrated one and then we'll calibrate and keep swapping, so on and so forth. Water's been fairly uneventful. And it's so nice to say that water has been uneventful for the last week and a half, because it's so often it's not. But it's been good, so things have been well, chlorine levels have been good, everything's going as it should, everything's working. So staff is back today, so they're back to their normal rotation of doing it now. On Friday, we did some interviews here. As Councillor Burick mentioned, we'll talk about the results of those in camera. We have some recommendations for at least some of them. And then going back to a week ago today, I was summoned to the Town of Swan River meeting on behalf of the Chamber of Commerce. So I went and took my lumps there for about half an hour from Councillor Medwood for the most part. We also discussed a little bit of stuff at RISE at the meeting, so we're going to resolve their concerns with RISE. And then I stuck around to watch them do a public hearing for a new business in Swan River. So it was approved. So some folks from Swan Valley West, our loss is the town's gain. They're moving a couple small businesses into town and making it a little bit bigger businesses. So we kind of lose out a bit, but the town will have some new stuff going on. So the gift shop, the coffee shop will be moving in the next few months and becoming town residents, which is kind of cool for the town. I attended medical recruitment on Tuesday, so medical recruitment specifically that day was time with the 3 doctors that had come from Winnipeg that will be here in September. I also spent an hour with 12 medical residents, 10 from Dauphin and 2 from Neepwa that we brought into the community for the day. So we gave them a pitch for the community and talked about it all, showed them the hospital and such. On Monday, I was also out with the 3 doctors. I wasn't out the whole day. Other committee members did some of that, but I did attend the evening event with them and did all the prep for the bags and stuff. So of the 3 doctors that are coming, if we step back, they're all international medical graduates, so they're forced to go someplace. These 3 are being forced to go to Swan River. They don't get a choice in that. Prairie Mountain Health chooses for them. So we had tried to do something different where up until now a medical graduate gets sent to Swan River, they have to be here for 4 years, they mark that on the calendar the day they get here, and they see their last patient at 4 o'clock on the day they have to be here and they're gone, and they're never here again. We have one that has stuck around here right now that chose to stay, which is pretty nice. They're from Nigeria. These 3 are also from Nigeria. So we're kind of trying to build this little community of, hey, you're not stuck out in the middle of nowhere by yourself. There's other people from the same country and you at least have some similar customs. Maybe you get along a little bit, maybe you don't, but we hope you do. So these ones originally had all indicated they were not bringing their families here. They were going to leave their families in Winnipeg. One of them was going to have their family in Brandon instead. And they were going to basically drive in here, stay for 2 weeks working full time, go back for a week or 2, drive in again, and do that for 4 years to work off their hours and be gone instantly. So the whole point of what we did last week was to try and change their mind on that. So we rented a bus. We asked to bring all of their families with, their husbands and their kids with, show them the community, show them what's here. And we at one point had them all committed to coming. The 3 husbands and 6 kids were all coming. And at 2 o'clock in the morning, the day the bus was leaving, 2 of them bailed and refused to bring their husbands and kids with. One of them said, I never want to go to Swan River. Find me a way to get out of Swan River because I'm not going there. Send me someplace else or I'm not doing this. So I paint that picture of where we're starting from to try to get to where we want to go. International medical graduates aren't always happy about where they get assigned to. So the one family came as the whole family, the other 2 came as just the doctors. So we spent our day and a half with them. This cost some bucks by the time we rented that bus and everything. The one family that had been moving to Brandon has a young son. He likes French immersion, he likes band. So we spent time, we showed him our French immersion program at the high school, we showed him the band program at the high school, we showed him the house building and the automotive. And we walked them all through that. And at the end of that, his parents said, we cannot believe that outside of Winnipeg, there is a facility like this that he can go to school at. He can do anything he wants to do in this building. We don't even have that in Winnipeg without driving around the city to do different things. We showed them daycares, we showed them houses, we took them on a real estate tour with an agent walking through houses to see what there was. We showed them the rink, the pool. We did everything we could. The 2 of them we have not made a lot of progress on. They're nice people, they'll be great doctors for us. To date, we don't have great progress to report. But the one family is no longer moving to Brandon. They're purchasing a house in Swan River. They don't have to be here until September. They've decided to come the 1st of July because they wish to spend the summer here. And they're bringing some extended family with them for the summer because it seems so nice here. So it cost us a bundle, but to us a bundle's 5-10 grand. It appears to date that we have changed the mind of one of them that they will move here. That is significant for the committee. If we got 1 out of every 100 people we tried this with, we would have more doctors than we know what to do with. They're coming here, they're bringing their kids, their husband is gonna come here, he's gonna work here. That means that doctor's here every week instead of in and out, back and forth. It's better for the patients, it's better for the community. And we cross our fingers, they might even stay after the 4 years, and they may not. That kid has 4 years of high school to do. When he's done high school, their commitment's up. The writing on the wall's not great for that, right? They may want to move away with him someplace. But if we get them for the whole 4 years, the whole time, at least, it's better than every second week. So there has been some progress.
Did you try and maybe sweeten the deal by, hey, we got a house for you? Seriously?
We've discussed how far do we go? Do we buy a house and let them stay in a house?
Well, don't we have one in Benito?
Do we have one?
Do we not?
No.
No
more.
No?
Oh, the one that we bought that has no power?
Yeah.
I don't think that's gonna be a saleable one for them quite yet.
Well, I mean,
I know what you're talking about.
it can be fixed up.
I'm not thinking that's the type of house you're looking at.
No, I mean, it might
They
get them
might
started.
out that's not that price. But I know what you mean.
You never know.
Yeah.
That's what we did in Benito years ago. We had village owned the house.
That's what I thought you meant.
The
was
doctor's
old
house.
Doctor's house.
No.
So I did an interview on February 28th. Medical recruitment on the 27th, which was a planning meeting for that. T4 filing was done twice. Actually, it was done 3 times. First, it was done entirely. Then we redid the firefighters. Then we redid council. But it's not yet record, because we once redid it 4 times. And I think we got it after just 3 this time. So everything's good. And that is the end of the report. Any questions, discussion on anything before we take a break?
That's about 35 doctors or potential doctors who've been showing around in the last month or so here.
The 20 we had, well, we actually only had 18 when we had the M1s and M2s, the first year's medical ones. 2 of them specifically requested to come to Swan River this summer. And what we're hearing from all of them is, we had no idea it was like this. That family that's coming here, they thought they were going to a fly-in only community with igloos. They just, when they got here and saw Swan River, they just couldn't believe what the community was. This is the perfect place. We don't want to be in Winnipeg. We want to be someplace like this.
Who would?
No. But we fight that thing, like, and for the other 2 that only they came, they enrolled their kids in daycare here. But at 2 a.m. that morning, they canceled the trip for their kids, so what if they enrolled their kids in daycare? They know how to cancel things. I'd love to see them come. I hope they do, but we're not holding out hope. The young man that was here, it's funny, so Guy's been really pushing on medical recruitment to look outside the box. This should not be about writing a check for $50,000 and hoping for the best, because it doesn't work. And there's actually a meeting coming up with medical recruitment where we're going to talk about not doing that anymore, doing things that make more sense. But one of the first things we did was we said, can we have the names and addresses of those children? And of course, for confidentiality, they can't give them to us. I said, but you can give them our stuff, right? So here's an email, send it to them. We want the name and address of every one of those kids. So one family wouldn't even give us that. One family did and they didn't come. But the young guy that came, we had his name and address. So a week before he came, in the mail, well, I think it was a courier, showed up at his house with a box that had Swan Valley written all over it, with his name on it. And his mom's telling me how I came home that day and he said, Mom, there's a box for me. It's for me. And she says, no, it can't be. It must be for you. No, he says, it's got my name on it. Can I open it? And he opened it up and inside is Swan River stuff. There's the stuff to take on the bus with you. There's a drawing book that has his name written on it. There's pins that are Swan River with his name on it. And he was absolutely hooked on the idea that he needs to go see this place. Box cost us $150. Best $150 we ever spent, because that kid will never forget that we were the place that mailed him a box that he got to open, that had pictures of the place he was going to and the markers and the names. And trust me, when you hear the names, you'll find out you don't get those on stickers very often. You have to custom print them. But, you know, that made this huge difference. That made more difference than a $10,000 check to his parents would have made in convincing that family to come here. Because he was bought in before he got on that bus that he wanted to see what this place was. And then he found out he likes the school and he likes the band class. And, you know, we made sure that we took him there at a time that there was a band class going on so he could sit there and see what they were doing. It's that little stuff that made the difference. It wasn't a $20,000 check. So, we'll see. We're going to keep doing it for a few more years and see if we run out of space at the clinic. Hopefully we do. Then we can be back here looking for how to build more clinic. We will be going in camera after a break. We'll be discussing a little bit of personnel stuff. For the most part, we're going to be discussing HR matters. We've got a lot of things to go through, but investigation and enforcement of acts and bylaws to do with Kenville and the dog problem out there will be a big topic of discussion. That will probably fill our evening, so that's where we'll stop for in camera tonight. But we'll take about a 10-minute recess, and then we'll come back and get started on all that. So we'll see you soon.
Should be good till 11.
All right, we'll move to section 13.1 in camera. Be it resolved that pursuant to section 1523, the Municipal Act Council shall meet as a committee of the whole to close the meeting and continue in camera regarding personnel matters, negotiations, preliminary discussions, investigation or enforcement of act or bylaw, and I believe that's it tonight. Is there a mover? I see Councillor Burick first, then Councillor Neely. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. Those in favour? That is carried. Coming to the in-camera section, we can advise that we have given staff direction on some HR matters, including extending a job offer to an individual, so we'll see if they accept that. Let's move to 13.3, resolutions arising from in-camera discussions. Is there any resolutions anyone wants to bring forward after that? Hearing nothing, we'll go to 14. Does anyone have a notice of motion to present tonight? Still hearing nothing, we'll go to 15. Be it resolved, this meeting now adjourned at 10:04 p.m. Be it further resolved, the next meeting is Tuesday, March 25th, 2025 at 7 p.m. Moved by Councillor Neely and seconded by Councillor Zbirun. Never thought you'd be the next one. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. Those in favor? That's carried. Thank you, everyone.